This is the Gaertner L115. It has a helium neon laser that's on the system. It has a shutter that opens and closes to block that laser. Slid forward is open, slid toward the back of the machine is closed. Make sure it is closed before we start. This is the sample stage where you'll actually load your sample to be measured. Behind that you see the angle of incident at 70 degrees, and this is where the magic happens. It's the Stokes meter. First thing we need to do is make sure that the monitor's on. If it's not already showing that, it will not be on if you haven't enabled it in iLab. You also need to make sure the computer's powered up. The next step we want to make sure we do is turn on the key for the laser and the illumination lamp. The key turns clockwise 1/4 turn. The green LED will be on, showing that the laser has power. Again, we always want to make sure that the shutter is closed. The next thing we want to do is go to the computer and double click on the GIMP SP icon. That will initiate the Gaertner software for the ellipsometer. While it's booting up, we make sure that the laser shutter is closed, and then we can load our sample. Be careful that it doesn't slide off the back. Get it in the center of the stage. Now if you look in the eyepiece, you'll notice that we can move the adjustments for the stage tilt, both left and right and aft and fore, and that will adjust the thick X marker in the eyepiece. We want to move that so that that center of that thicker X, the center of that is overlaid on the center of the thin hairline X that's stationary. And when you're finished, it should look like this. Next thing we want to do is go ahead and open the shutter for the laser so that it's feeding a signal in. We can go to the Gaertner Ellipsometer measurement program and click on the button for the measurement and calibration. That will then open up a window that will look like this. And the first step we want to do is maximize our signal to the Stokes meter. To do that, we're going to go to the lower left portion of the screen and either hit the F9 key on the keyboard or click on this button shown here. That will bring up a meter on the screen. That's the T-max. We want to maximize where this line is, so this is going to move up and down as we adjust the height of the stage. So we want to move that back and forth until we get the maximum level, the maximum strength going to the Stokes meter. It will look something like this. Once you're done, you can click on the OK or the X at the top of the screen to close that window. We now need to load our file by pressing the Load File button, or simply use the default program that will come up when the system's initialized. Just make sure that the thickness for your film is entered next to thickness 1, and that's the expected value. You also need to make sure the film refractive index is correct for that. In this case, it's for an thermally grown oxide. And then the extinction coefficient in this case is 0. The refractive index for the silicon substrate is already pre-entered, as well as the extinction coefficient. We can now go ahead and do a measurement and calculation, and then that value will be displayed here next to thick 1. We can also do multiple measurements and get statistics on that. To get multiple measurements, we would hit the F5 key. Now, for those to register, we need to make sure that the statistics key is pressed down, and then it'll display the number of measurements that have been taken, and you can hit the stop key after you've reached the number that you'd like. Here's an example of 150 measurements that were taken. So here you can see the F10 stats key is pressed down, locked down, and then it gives us the min, max, and standard deviation. If you hit the print screen key, it'll put it on the window outside the measurement and statistics. When you're done, you can simply hit the return key or the X up in the right corner. Now we want to make sure we close the shutter by pushing it toward the back of the machine. And then we want to go ahead and turn off the laser and the illumination. Then we can remove our sample from the stage and log out of iLab. Also want to mention the Enlarged side delta map button that's on the center right side of the window. If you press this button, it'll open up the refractive index contour map. This allows you to look at different scenarios, so you can say, what if this changed or that changed. On this map, you can alter the thickness 1, the refractive index of the film, NF1, the absorption, KF1, or rotate the map itself. Please contact the responding staff member if you have any questions.